Hey guys, welcome back. It's time to look at some error cards from the members of E4. Thanks very much to Deku, who has created the thread for people to show off their error cards. It looks like if you need something done in terms of an art commission, you can reach out to him. I'm not sure how busy he is at the moment, but doesn't hurt to try. Let's get into it. So we have we might see a few duplicates of the very popular errors, and maybe the more common stuff. So we'll go through. Don't be surprised. Some of these we've seen in the error videos on the channel. Some we haven't gotten to yet, and some are just one of a kind or so uncommon that you wouldn't really list them as an error or a repeated error. So here we go. We have Scratch Desk, who has it's pretty hard to tell maybe on the picture here, but the Charizard on the left does not have texture on it. So I've seen a lot of this in the EX era, and I know even Gary has a sheet of Mewtwo's. I think it's Mewtwo's and maybe Dragonites on it. It's got Mewtwo's on it for sure that don't have texture yet. So apparently it's a separate process where they add the texture, and they've released some cards that do not have it. And it looks like he has nearly all of the breakpoint full arts without texture. Just looking for the Scizor and Secret Rare Gyarados. So if you have those, reach out to Scratch Desk here. I'm sure he would appreciate that. I'm assuming that he hasn't found them yet, but doesn't hurt to ask. No damage Ninetales, so ignore the guys on the side. Oh no, the Blastoise is an error as well. We have the no damage Ninetales. So if you have a Ninetales, check it out. If it doesn't have the 80 here and the Fire Blast damage slot, that's an error, as we've seen. The Blastoise is probably a little bit small on the video here, but it's gonna have the stage error where it doesn't have the stage on the top right side here. Recent Hollow Bleeds. I know my brother pulled one of these on the channel. The Charizard from Evolutions with the Hollow Bleed. This one looks like it could even compete with that in terms of the amount of bleed that's coming through. Very cool. Ace-Bren has a Tangela with the I don't know what this looks like. It almost looks like something that should be under on a biology slide. Like we're doing some research here, looking through a microscope, and we got the little the culture here on the side. Petri dish Tangela. Next, 4th star TCG thinks he's funny. It's pretty funny actually. I have this funny error card. The label says PSA 9, but it's really a PSA 10. Trust me, possible regrade, ? Flawless card. Yep, that's a 9. I don't know what the card looks like in person, but we'll call it that. Oh, we're spoiling a little bit here. Quador, who probably has enough error cards to make 75 videos about. Primarily a Pikachu collector, so if you find any Pikachus that are abnormal, make sure to get in touch with him. Let's see what we got here. We have the Pikachu. We got the ghost stamp, I think most commonly referred to as here. Ghost Phantom First Edition misprint, and the blue background XY. So you can see here, probably just a little bit of a color issue. We go down a bit. We have the Meryl from EX Sandstorm. One has the retreat cost, the other does not. We have a Delibird here with some yellow stuff all over it, which would have probably, I don't know when they add the yellow, apparently it made a mess. I have an EV Max promo that had this same kind of thing happen, which is also kind of neat because on the reflective parts it almost looks like it's gold rather than silver. Here it's almost got like a green hue to it where it's overlapping with the blue. Pretty cool. I think he mentions that he pulled pulled that one himself. We have Drowsy here with an S instead of a Z or a Z, depending on your location. So this was never corrected. It's still an error, I guess. Mess up on their part, but never corrected. If you do have a corrected one, you're in luck. So here we have where the stamp wasn't dry, the first edition stamp wasn't dry, and the sheets were stacked. So you end up with a mark on the back side. I've seen this quite a few times. The first edition stamp is put on in a separate layer, so they probably just put the sheets in, they all get stamped, and then when they put the sheet on the sheet, we end up with that. I think he is looking for a Pikachu that has this on the back side of it. So if you have any of those, you're in luck. Tell him to write you a check. Pikachu here. German Rising Rivals Pikachu with 2 ink drops at the back of the card. So this is getting into the very fringe collecting. I don't know if this was a common thing. I'm not familiar with German Rising Rivals. If anyone knows, let me know. Here we go. MegaCon has a no texture full art error. Again, looks like this era, the breakpoint, super common. Not necessarily common, but more common in this set than others. We have the Gyarados here. So you gotta be careful with these a little bit because a lot of the fakes will not have texture on them. Because why would they bother putting the texture on them, or it's just a process that they can't do. So be careful that it's an actual card when you're searching these out. And here we go. Not sure if the no number Top Sun cards count, as they're similar to the now less obscure no rarities, but I was able to pick up mint copies of those as well. I'm not super familiar with these, but I guess I would say that that's more of like a print run variation if those came out beforehand, but I'm not even 100% sure that's what happened. I'm assuming it is something like the no rarity, where they just didn't have it in the beginning, and those were like the first ones printed, and then later on they added the numbers. We have the first ed double hollow errors are some of my most treasured cards, and it's all thanks to an awesome collector on this thread, Card Guru TCG. So I think this is just the ones with the extra hollow. It's almost like there's less covering it up. Seeing some variation in that, the amount of hollow that's showing through. These are kind of cool. So the golden, secret, rare, legendary treasure cards have been known to have different levels of hue intensity from the printing process, and some come out slightly duller than others. The ones I was able to find, however, were completely different hues altogether. There's a bright yellow and very little black ink on no text symbols. So like I think this one is just like lacking a black layer, maybe. And I don't know how much that plays into. I haven't actually looked at these cards with magnification. So I don't know how much that plays into the color here, or that's just a variation, and then this is another variation where they missed a black layer on the text and such. Seems to be the case. But yeah, they show up differently too. Like these are right next to each other, so it's a good comparison. But depending on the light, they can look a lot different from one photo to another. Or I guess the camera would matter as well. So here we have a gray surfing Pikachu. Pretty cool. So this is another case where they probably just missed a black layer. You have to be careful when colors and fading and stuff like that, because people can sun bleach the card and be a little bit dishonest by not mentioning the fact that that's what happened, or maybe they don't understand that's what happened. But typically you're going to lose your yellow before anything else, and the last thing that's going to remain on the card is the black. So if something's got gray instead of black, it's usually pretty safe in terms of knowing that it wasn't altered. Dark Persian from M with the no HP. Hard to knock this Pokemon out, or maybe it counts as 0. That's pretty cool. It looks like that was a childhood card. Little wear and tear on it, but wouldn't have it any other way, I suppose, if you're gonna hold on to it anyway. probably has more sentimental value rather than anything else. Tony, aka Delibird Deals, has the missing HP Persian as well, this time in a 9. A little bit better condition. We got another Diglett with the sideways energy symbol. I think I should know this, but I think these were from lv.x. Separate printing. We have first edition stamp Ivy Pikachu. We have Ink Smear Haunter. Very cool. So this was a thing. We have the incomplete Phantom Stamp or Ghost Stamp Pikachu here. Stager Blastoise. No damage Ninetales. And there's no indication on the label. I think at one point they were grading this as the error, and then they stopped, maybe. And then I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was Rusty that opened one from a theme deck, so maybe that was confirmed. Let me know if you know that as well. Don't take my word for it, but I'm pretty sure someone opened one, which would sort of confirm authenticity or the origin. War Turtle evolution box error. So we got War Turtle evolving from War Turtle. Interesting. The no hollow Dragonite here. So in the bottom, this is the set number 5 for the hollow version, but it's printed as the non-hollow. Probably just a case where they forgot to switch the numbers over when they were printing the non-hollows. Everybody's favorite red ink dot Blastoise. So we got a little red ink dot right here. I don't know if I would even really count this. I guess if it's repeated enough, well, someone can make that argument. Hollow Smudge Pinsir. We have D Edition Butterfree. A little bit hard to see in the image, but there's a D in there instead of a 1. Just I don't know if that was how that came to be, but we have Ink Smear Hitmonlee, so that like fossil air are just really getting smeared up. Lots of that stuff going on. Heart in Circle Clefairy, so hard to see as well, but up at the top here there's almost like an ink dot that looks like a heart and it's got like a circle around it. We have Black Ink Dot Clefairy right here, big ink dot, and it looks like there's also maybe a little dot right here as well. Not that that really matters when you got the big block over top of the big blot over top of the now. First edition gray thick stamp with Pikachu as the example. So gray stamps, as we've seen recently, people are hit or miss on the gray stamps. First edition gray thin stamp with Blastoise. Upside down back cards, so what looks like normal cards on the front. Some crazy stuff going on in the back. Way off kilter, as well as upside down. That might have been just this placement on the back might be largely to do with the fact that the sheet doesn't line up the same way on opposite sides, where the border might be thicker on the bottom or the top. We'll have to take a look at some of those back sides, especially in the jungle and base set. We have some extreme miscuts. We got Gyarados with stuff on top. It's crazy how these are almost identical. Definitely from the same sheet, and or 2 sheets that were cut the same way. We have a Growlithe with the miscut. Looks normal on the front, backside, all kinds of off, upside down, everything else. Deku, the creator of this thread, is in here to tell us about the Mew. So he was organizing his holofoil collection and came across a Mew. So it's Secret Wonders Mew Holo. This era is pretty notorious for having holo bleeds, so that's a thing. But also the Mew on itself, as we'll see later in a better, larger image, it says new species instead of species, so they're missing an S, little typo in there, but cool nonetheless. Maverick75 says, only pulled 3 errors before. 2 all hollow golems from Generations, which seemed to be very common error. Not so common was this reverse hollow Geodude, right one. It was all hollow. So, yeah, sometimes you'll see that where on a reverse card, the art box is printed a little thin, and you get the hollow bleed through there, sort of like a reverse hollow bleed. Sorry about the size of that image, but you get the idea. All right, Reggie, what does he got for us? Here's another example of the Mew. We get the hollow bleed, which again, not uncommon. I don't know if we can read that there, but it's got the species Pokemon. We have the no texture lv.x. Oh, this one's in Portuguese as well. Interesting. We have Psyduck, where you're flipping a coin instead of flipping. We have the Diglett, sideways Diglett. We have the no symbol jungle error. I love these. I have the full set of those. It's only applicable to the hollows, so pretty cool to have the whole set. That was part of my trade when I got my first edition Charizard, base set Charizard. Anybody like crimped cards? So we get all kinds of crimped guys here. I don't really collect them, but if I end up with anything that's really miscut or crimped, then I usually just stick it in a side binder. Maybe someday somebody will want to trade for them. We have Fampy here, who has his name spelled wrong on the card itself. I guess twice. Fampy and Fampy. We have some miscuts here. That shifter is pretty cool. I really like when you can see the next card, and I've only pulled a handful of those. I think maybe 3 of those in my career. Apom with some weird stuff going on with the imitate and I don't know what you want to call that, tail wrench. Apparently this has happened more than once. I think this is the only one that I've seen, but maybe we'll do some investigating once we get up into those sets, into the error videos. Bulbasaur with a smear across his name, so probably just the ink wasn't dry and roller or one sheet on the other rubbed it, or maybe the ink was a little bit too heavy and it didn't dry before it got stacked. We've seen this guy recently in a video, Pokebody. So on the reverse one, they forgot to remove the Pokebody here, probably due to the fact that the other lantern in the set has a Pokebody. This one does not. So just when they were reformatting the card, I think this one here is hollow, but it just doesn't have very much hollow, so maybe the ink was a little heavy, heavier than usual. What do we have next? Caterpie. Scratch Desk has a Caterpie. This is quite the error, so I don't know. It's hard to say if this was like some kind of chemicals or something that got on the card, prevented the ink from sticking, or something along those lines. Interesting nonetheless. Mariana has the Bleed Luxray and the regular Luxray. So I think even some of these sets is probably more uncommon to find the one without Hollow Bleed than the Hollow Bleed one. I haven't paid much attention to that. Usually just if I find a nice copy of one or the other, then I put it in my binder. Some sets, Hollow Bleed being pretty hard to find. MegaCon has a square cut Mega Charizard EX, which is pretty cool. You have to be a little bit careful with the square cut stuff, because if sheets are even semi available, people will cut the sheet up and then have a bunch of square cuts to sell. So it is probably a separate process for when they're cutting the cards to cut them square, and then another process where blades cut the corners off. So I have pulled a couple cards where the corner some corners are still on, or some corners are like partially still on. Sometimes you'll find the little corner hanging off of it. Something to keep in mind. Here we go. This guy is shifted pretty good. It's all bottom border. Scratch desk coming back with another very cool one. So at first you look at it, don't really notice anything, but as you'll see here, there's some indents where it should say have a world's stamp here. It looks like the foil either wasn't added to where it's pressed on, or it didn't adhere, which is kind of neat. There isn't a whole lot of information about the process that's used for stamping the cards, but it's got to be done afterwards, I would assume, and usually just on like the regular version of whatever card it is. Same with staff promos and stuff like that. Those gold stamps are usually something that's put on later on, similar to this, the WB stamp Mewtwo. So here the sheet was probably put in upside down, and you ended up with the stamp down on this side instead of on the opposite side. I think there's Dragonites with this as well. Similar problem. Diglett Fighting Air PSA 10, very cool. People are really going after the Diglets. So Aitzen has a Piplup. I'm not even sure what is going on with this. Maybe I'll have to ask him. But it almost looks like Piplup spent the day at the beach or was sandblasting or something. Something weird going on here. And I can't tell if those are like hollow dots that are showing through, but certainly interesting nonetheless. Pop Series 6. I can't say I've seen anything like this. I don't know what happened to it, but here we go. Acebren shows us a Dark Raichu with all kinds of weird stuff going on where the hollow is showing through in the wrong spots. Very neat. Another one from Aitzen here. I think he ended up returning this from what the thread was saying. I don't think I've even ever seen a crosshatch hollow like blank card, but you had to be careful with these, especially because that seller ended up having a Sun and Moon era one that was blank. People can remove the ink and leave just the foil by using acetone on the card, and that was probably most definitely the case with this card. So keep that in mind. There are cards that are blank that came like that, but it's hard, just like the square cut corners, to 100% verify that that's what happened. I guess better or easily or more verifiable if it's not a foil, because the foil doesn't dissolve or anything like that. With acetone, just the ink will come off of it, versus a regular card will probably soak up some of the acetone, I would think. Quivers 710 has an oddish with some junk on the side. So it looks like another one of those cases, similar to the one that we saw before, where the ink didn't adhere because maybe chemicals or whatever else that was used on here didn't allow anything to stick to it. Very cool. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you have any of these, and I'll see you next time.